I want to be like a voice for people and say, like, it's okay if, maybe we could actually make a change in the healthcare system if nurses would collectively and loudly really speak up about what we're having to go through in our everyday career. Because most people, if you're not in healthcare, don't realize what nurses are put through on a day-to-day basis. And even like these TV shows and stuff, people think they get a glimpse. And I have heard that The Pit, I think on Max, I haven't personally watched it. I've heard that
You're
that's a
right. I haven't watched it yet either.
I've heard it's a representation of what it's like, but I think a lot of people who are not in healthcare do not really comprehend or even have the capacity to comprehend what we're having to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I mean, some people might even say like, oh, in labor and delivery, you're just delivering babies and like that's all great, and it's like, no, you're having to deal with the partner and the family, and sometimes the situations are not great, or you may have a mother that you don't feel comfortable sending the child home with,
Uh-huh.
because of certain situations or the way
Mhm.
they treated their baby like after birth. And it's like, or you could have somebody who's trying to fight you when you're trying to just do like a check on them. There's just so many different aspects in every area of nursing, not just emergency room, not just med surge, not just women's services. I mean, I remember in the NICU, there was a night that we would have this thing called rooming in. So before the baby was supposed to go home, we would have the parents take the baby into this like bedroom, bathroom, little suite that we would have, and they would practice and like kind of have a night where they took care of the baby by themselves, but had the nurse's number. So like if they needed us, we were there, but we wanted them to feel comfortable taking care of their NICU baby before going home. Well, we had these parents that were a little, I don't know how to say it. We kind of had a little feeling of like, I don't know,
Things
like
off.
something's off. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And during their rooming in night, they got into a physical altercation, left the baby alone in the room, and the dad threw the mom up against our supply room door. But despite the nurses advocating to not send that child home, they sent the child home with them the next day.
Wow.
Despite going up, calling the manager, calling like the care coordinator, the social worker, like saying, we don't feel comfortable. This altercation just happened. They left the baby alone, and then they came out the room and had a physical fight in their unit, and we still sent that baby home. And like, it's things like that that I'm just like, I can't like comprehend or cope with all of this. And maybe
Mhm.
that's just something that I struggle with, but I'm just like, I can't cope with this. Like this is not okay. And the amount of times I feel like I've said this is not okay in my nursing career, I would be a millionaire if I had $1 for every time I said that. Like this is not okay. And I just think that we as nurses need to speak up about what it's really like, because I think that you can feel that nursing is your calling, but also be frustrated with the expectations that are put on you.
Yeah.
And, so that's just kind of where I'm at now.
I mean, I will say, just even listening to you, you exude, I'm a nurse. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you ever doubted if that was ever a part of your calling, I don't think you should, because you literally do exemplify truly like being a teacher, being an advocate, helping others, compassion. Like just from the few minutes that like we're just talking, you literally exemplify what it's like to be a true nurse and to have these real feelings. I think that a lot of us, I can't say I can't say how many times I've heard this is not okay, like in
Mhm.
a shift, forget
Yeah.
about, so I think that there's a lot of things. Like I was trying to think like, okay, if I could change one thing about nursing, what would it be? And honestly, I feel like the one thing I would change is there's a million changes that need to be changed.
Hmm.
It's
For
not
sure.
just one thing. I try to think about like, okay, what's the if I could have a perfect hospital for nursing, like what would that be like? And it would not even be close to what what it's like today in a
Yeah.
hospital. I think that no matter if you work for a for-profit company, a nonprofit, there's always going to be something where you have a manager that's like doing the most,
Mhm.
that you really don't need to be doing the most at all. Like I'm literally here to work. I'm actually working. I'm not one of the nurses that sits down and does nothing and tries to pass it on to day shift or, whatever. Um, Dealing with the families is a lot. Like, like all these other things. We're the therapist, we're the janitor, we're the everything. And, and it sucks that sometimes like we get the brunt of things or things that we need for us, you know, it just becomes so much more difficult. Like I know for me, on the particular unit that I work on, sometimes it's not easy to get a day off. Like, and mentally, you go through so much. They like, I don't understand. I have PTO, right? And I don't want to like call out and be like, oh, I'm sick when I really just want to lay down. Like,
Yeah.
I need a break, So I can totally relate, even though like it's not all the way like the same exact situation, but it just in bits and pieces of what you're saying, I'm like, yeah, like I go through this all the time. I think that there is strength and power in just saying like it's not okay and just honestly being an advocate. That's honestly
Mhm.
one of the purposes of my podcast is like I want people to be able to actually tell what it's like being a nurse and highlighting your own journey because I do think that other people will get something out of it. I like what do you do for yourself? Like what do you do in terms of like trying to get like release when you're not working? What do you do for fun? Like does it help? Does it not help? Do you shop?
I don't I have a lot of like grandma hobbies, I like to call them. I'm very introverted as a person for the most part, and I think a lot of that has to do with like giving so much of your energy in your work life, that when I'm off, I want to kind of be at home and be away from the public and everybody. So I like to do things like I like to crochet, I like to
Oh, you're
garden.
a real grandma.
I'm a real grandma. I like puzzles. Like I'm like a real grandma hobby person. Like I'm like sitting at home with my crochet and my shells, and I'm happy as a clam.
Is
You
there a
know,
cat walking around too or no?
no, I have a dog. I think I will get a cat
Okay.
later, but I do have a dog right now, and she likes to sit with me and lay on me while I do my little things. Like there was one period I was making hats for every single person I work with in the NICU, and one of the nurses, she
Oh
was
my
so
gosh.
sweet. She used to wear it all the time, and she was like, "I love this hat," and it just always made me feel so good. I'm like, "Oh, you know." Um,
But this
but
was
yeah,
like you're a nurse, this this is like, you sure like it seems like, you are ready to like live and die in Nikki. This is like like exactly what I expect a Nikki nurse to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right, and I appreciate you for saying that. I do feel like in my heart, I am a nurse and I am a caregiver and I am a helper, and I'm an advocate for people. It's just, I think, frustrating working in the system. So for me, it's like
Right.
I want to be able to make a living and also help people. And not even necessarily they have to go together. I'm kind of in a space where I'm like, okay, if I have to do something that's a little bit low stress to make a living, but I can help others in a different area, that would also be something that I want to do. It's just for me, the working as a nurse right now, I'm just like, I cannot cope with it. And it's like, I'm almost too, and I've also kind of gone back and forth because I did apply to, when I moved to Florida, I applied to go to the NICU here, and they gave me a job offer. But then after we had talked about pay, which Florida is notoriously low pay for nurses, they want, yeah, I mean, like I've been a nurse for 10 years and they wanted to offer me like $6 less than what I was making back home. And I stayed with the same company. So, I wasn't even making that much because I didn't opt to leave. That's how you make money. You got to switch out companies. And I didn't do that, and they still wanted to pay me less. And I was like, okay, well, I love babies. Maybe I'll make it work. And after I signed the offer letter, they called me back and said, no, we're going to reduce that pay. That was too much. And I was like, okay, I feel like the universe is telling me that
I
maybe I'm meant to go there.
immediately, where's the door? Where's
No.
the door? I'm out of here. Are you crazy? Less after I
Yes.
already signed is
After I've already signed, and like I did the math, and I was like, it's not going to cost the hospital more than $400 a year. to pay me what I had already signed for. And you're going to try to take this 50 cents away. Like, and it
That's
was only
crazy.
50 cents, but it was just I'm like, if this is how, before I've even set foot in the unit at working, if this is how
Hmm.
you treat your employees, I'm like, I don't think I want to work here. Because
Yeah.
what else is going to happen after I've already signed everything and I'm in the unit? Like
Right.
you just don't know. And I've just been burned so many times. I feel like that for me, I don't know what I want to do, even though I do know that I want to help people. That is something that I do want to do, but it's just working for the healthcare system right now. I don't feel like I can cope with it. I feel like even if I go back and I go back to bedside, because I do enjoy bedside. I got so many comments on my TikTok that were like, go into administration. I don't want to go into administration. Administration to me is the problem. So I don't want to become part of the problem and start reducing people and their experiences down to a number. Because that's what they do. They sit on their spreadsheets and they're like, oh, it should take this many minutes to do a med pass for one patient. Well, they don't account
Hmm.
for the fact that your patient might drop them on the floor. Your patient might spit up on them. You have to crush them up and feed them to them in applesauce. Like they don't take all those things into account when they're sitting at their computer on their spreadsheet and not realizing that every single patient, every single person is different and their experience is different, and they don't allot for that. They don't allot for the fact that, okay, it should take you 3 minutes to take somebody to the bathroom when it might take grandma 20 minutes, but you want to help her be independent. So you guide her or help her, and you don't have a tech. So you're the one taking her to the bathroom. You don't have the support staff, or the fact that someone's ripped out their IV and they're on heparin and now they're bleeding everywhere. So you have to stop exactly what you're doing to like control their bleeding, get another IV, and let the doctor know that they've been sitting in a pool of blood for however long. Like administration, I don't feel like accounts for the variables that are what it is to have a human experience. And so
Right.
I do enjoy being at the bedside and connecting with the patient and trying to make a difference in that way. So all these people who are giving me these suggestions of like, these like, oh, work for the insurance. I don't want to work for insurance. I don't feel like insurance is always super helpful, like we just all saw like Luigi and that whole of like
I didn't mean to laugh because that was definitely crazy, but I get it. Like it's so unfortunate that man lost his life.
Mhm.
So unfortunate. I mean, wow, what a way to for that to even happen. But the healthcare system and insurance, yeah, it's not. I don't think I'd be running. I definitely wouldn't be running after that, to that field. But yeah,
Because I don't want to be, because I agree with you. It's unfortunate that the man lost his life, but it's also unfortunate that there are hundreds of thousands of Americans who are having their health care denied, having
yeah,
their claims denied. Like they're paying to be covered by insurance, and insurance is still saying, no, you don't need
right,
that. I mean, the
right,
stories of doctors trying to get approval and insurance companies saying, oh, that person doesn't need that life saving care when that patient is on a ventilator. It's
mm-hmm,
like, they're not on a ventilator for no reason.
mm-hmm.
Like doctors
I've
don't.
had a doctor tell me that he was in the middle of surgery when an insurance company called about a claim, and he's like, the patient's on the table. Like it's not, and this is like the reality of it that people do not get to see.
Yeah. And that's
Hmm.
and that's scary. So like when I get the comments that are like, "Oh, go work for an insurance company." I'm like, "No. Like I
Hmm.
want to actually be a helper." Like, yes, I
Hmm.
need to make a living because we live in a world where you have to pay for things. So I want to make a living and I want to have a life, but I don't want to contribute to the problem. I want to be like help create a solution to the problem. And I don't know if that is. I mean, I'm only one person with my experience, but I'm like, how can I speak out, or what can I do to actually help change things? That's what I would really like to do, because not only for me, but for every single bedside nurse, for every nurse who has been verbally assaulted, who has been physically assaulted, who is burnt out, who goes home and cries, who like cries in the parking lot before they go into their shift because they don't know what is going on. Like these people, myself included, we went into this career because we wanted to do good. We wanted to do right by people, but the system makes it so hard. And
Yeah.
so that's where I am at. Like, I want to still do that, but I just have a really hard time working within the healthcare system at this time. And
Yeah.
I would love to see like some changes and, like I've had friends who traveled and they're like, oh, well, in California, you get your 15-minute breaks. They make you take your breaks. You have your support staff. Your patient ratios are low. And it's like, why is that only in California? Why is
Right.
that not across the entire United States? It's not
Yeah.
fair and it's not right because people have a right to healthcare and
Mhm.
proper healthcare. And I feel like also a lot of comments were, you know, like I would hate to have you as my nurse, like your patients can like pick up on that energy and it's not. And I yeah, I mean, you get a lot of comments and stuff or whatever, but it's like I'm
Block.
like that blog button, but going. um but it's like I can still have a feeling of being frustrated by something that's out of my control and still give compassionate care to a human being because every
Right.
single like I said before, every single patient that you take care of, that is somebody's son, that is somebody's daughter, that is somebody's mother, that is somebody's father, and I never wanted to lose sight of that.
Mhm.
Like when going back to what I said about not wanting to be a jaded nurse, like I never wanted to lose sight of like no matter what is going on, this is a human being who needs help. So, like, what can I do to help them in this moment? And I mean, so many times I got so much pushback. Like, I remember there was a case in the emergency room where we had a patient who had Down syndrome who lived very long. He was like in his, well, I don't want to give his age for HIPAA, but like he was older and his
Mhm.
parents had passed away. And
Oh my goodness.
his neighbor had actually become his full-time caregiver, and he was more
Oh.
total care. He did not have as much capacity as some people with Downs have. He had a little bit less capacity. So his neighbor, who was elderly, took him on, and then he kept living, and as she was also getting older, and she ultimately brought him to the hospital because she said, I don't have the capacity to take care of him anymore. I'm getting older. My health is not good. I can't really turn him and clean him and do all the things that he needs. And so she kind of brought him and was like, I need help. She was saying, I need help with this man. So we admitted him, the social workers are trying to figure out, like, is there a home that we can maybe send him to? Like, and then you've got the insurance situation and things like covered by the state and all that going back and forth. Well, after he was there for a few days, and I had taken care of him multiple nights in a row. So now I'm bonded to this patient. Now I really have a strong connection to this patient. Because they didn't admit him to the hospital. They just had kept him in the ER until they figured out where he was going to go. And I came in one night and I get report from the nurse from day shift, and she tells me that he's going to be discharged in the morning and he's going to go back to the original caregiver. And I said,
What?
what? I said, why is he going back to the original caregiver? And she was like, they said there's like nothing else for them to do. Now, this woman was in her 80s. Like this woman was in her 80s. It was not like, and she also, it was not her child. It was not her family member. Like she,
Right.
out of the goodness of her heart, took this man in and took care of him for 10 years. And then got to
Wow.
a point where she was like, I'm not doing well. I can't do this. I'm not physically capable of taking care of this patient. And so I went to my charge nurse. I called my manager. I called care coordination. I called the house supervisor of the hospital. And I said, this is not okay. This is not okay. I called the lady or the caregiver and I said, they told me that they're sending him home with you tomorrow. Is this something that you're willing to do, you're comfortable with? And she said, no. She said, they basically said I had no choice but to take him back. And I went to every single person I could. That whole shift, I was on the phone being like, why are we doing this? There's nothing else we can do. There's nowhere else that like he can get care other than this woman. And every single person said no. And the next morning, they sent him home with her.
Wow.
They forced her to take him back. And I will never forget that because it's like I spent so much time really trying to get this man help. And no,
Wow.
and I'm like, she could have a stroke. And
Yeah.
then he's gonna be in the bed with no one to take care of him, and
Right.
nobody might not even know. And then
Right.
they're both gonna die. Like, and it's just so many of those situations that I've been put in and trying to advocate and really trying to fight. And it's like, you just get told, there's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can do. I'm like, somebody's got to be able to do something because people are like being punished and not in a way like they come to the hospital to get help. And so many times we don't even really help them. And that's what hurts me. It's like,
Yeah.
I think early on in my nursing career, I really was like, oh yeah, I'm going to help people. And then I became a nurse and I was like, I'm not actually helping people at the capacity that I thought I would be able to. Not that I'm not making a difference or I'm not, doing this thing or, being kind and making this patient feel comfortable, but I really struggled in the first few years of nursing realizing how much was actually in my scope and how much I could actually help. And so it's just been a frustrating journey. But yeah, the healthcare system, unfortunately, in this country is broken and I want to fix it.
I think, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I think that you do have a purpose in that. I think that a lot of times, I'm a big believer in that everything happens for a reason. I don't think that I don't think anything happens by accident. Nothing to me goes to waste. So maybe all of these things are happening to you to kind of like help push you into a direction where one, you kind of don't really know where you're going, but I think that like all of these things are kind of maybe perhaps leading you into some sort of like a modern day Florence Nightingale. Like, you know what I mean? Like a fighter, like, like what if
Yeah.
like you're meant to like, kind of help in representing like nurses that go on strike? Like you are on the board of
Mhm.
something and like you really fight for people in that kind of way. Because like just in the way that like and I know like a lot of us get frustrated and stuff like that, but for you, like the fact that you're like, I'm an introvert, and like, but the way that you're like talking, like to me, I'm like, it's not giving introvert vibes. Like, you know what I mean? Like you are a fighter, and I think that
Yeah.
it's something that I think you should explore. I think that a lot of nurses would be thankful for to have like someone that can stand up and fight for our rights, so maybe it's something like that. Maybe that's why you're getting so frustrated at other because it's like maybe you're not stepping to the purpose that your true purpose that, just the fact that you said like, I thought I was going to be helping people in a different capacity and maybe that is a different capacity that all these things happen to you for a reason. So I don't know, keep pushing, keep fighting. Like I think that you literally have it in you, so
Thank you for
congratulations to the future. Thanks for
thank you
fighting for us in the future.
I hope to. I really appreciate you saying that because I'm very spiritual and I also believe, like, I don't believe in coincidences. I feel like things
Mhm.
happen the way they're supposed to. And I think that's a really good way to look at it. But it's also, as much as like I want to do that, it's very scary because I don't really know how. And maybe this podcast will be the start of it, I
We
mean,
will
maybe,
see.
yeah, I never really anticipated that my TikTok was going to blow up the way it did or resonate. I mean, I knew that it would also get some resonation because I mean, we as nurses are venting to each other like, oh my God, I can't, stand this. But in the way that people really were like, I feel this to my core and like I've given so many years and reading those comments really validated how I was feeling in that moment. And yeah, I mean, maybe this is just the beginning of my new journey as an advocate in a different way.
Mhm. I think you should definitely explore. You have a supporter. I'll be supporter number one, the first
Thank
one.
you.
But thank you so much for joining. I so appreciated this conversation. I think, like I said, a lot of nurses can totally resonate with exactly on how we both feel, but more so
Mhm.
you for sure. I think that, you know, yeah, I think you are going somewhere. I just, it's unfortunate all these things happen to you, but I can't wait to see what's on the other side of it for you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Oh, you're welcome. And for those of you watching or listening, if you ever want to be on the nurse aspect, email me at thenurseaspect@gmail.com. Connect with me on TikTok for nonsense for my relatable or debatable series. I'm a night nurse, will always be. Don't get in my comments because I'll still be a night nurse forever and ever and ever until God says no. Okay. Thanks for joining.
Bye.
Bye.